Hi, I'm Stacy. Welcome to the kitchen of my old Kentucky home. Today on Bourbon and Biscuits, we're going to be celebrating Mint Julep Month. Jessica is going to be making a mint julep inspired cocktail, and I'm going to be pairing it with a sweet treat. Let's get started. We're making mint julep kisses. Here's what we'll need. The whites from 2 eggs, a half a cup of white table sugar, 6 ounces of mini chocolate chips, a drop of green food coloring, and some crème de menthe. We're going to make some mint julep kisses today, which are essentially just sweetened meringues with mini chocolate chips and a little crème de menthe or peppermint extract flavoring. I decided to do this today because they make a great pairing with a sparkling cocktail or just a fun sweet dessert on a buffet to celebrate Mint Julep Month. So all we're going to need to do, you can use your hand mixer, but I like to throw this into the KitchenAid. We're going to take egg whites out of these guys and form very stiff meringues is the first thing we're going to do. So we'll take these egg whites. If you have an egg separator, you can use that. It's also really easy to just do, let's see, break them right into the shell and let the whites fall down on the side. Careful not to break your yolk. I'm using pretty large eggs, so if almost really jumbo style, so if you are using smaller ones, you might even want to add a third. So you'll have enough meringue to work with. Okay, so it's the first step. I'm just gonna whip these. Now, if you're using a hand mixer, this takes a little longer, but I'm just gonna let this machine do its work. Okay, that looks to be the stiffness of the egg white that we need. So we're just going to keep this running. And we're going to add the half a cup of sugar just a little bit at a time. Got to be real careful, real judicious about this because in some practice rounds, I added the sugar a little too quickly and it just melted the egg whites into a soupy mix that didn't fluff up. So don't do that. The original recipe that I riffed off of, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later, calls for 3/4 of a cup of sugar. In my experimentation, I didn't like them quite that sweet, so I just went for a half a cup, and I thought that turned out well. But if you want them sweeter, you can up that sugar content. Okay, while that's mixing up, I'm just going to add 1 drop of green food coloring. You can also leave these white if you like. You could also double the amount if you want them a little darker. I've kind of experimented with a little of everything. Just going to do a light green for ours. And then finally, I found this crème de menthe at a craft store actually that carries cake making supplies. You can also use just a basic peppermint extract if you wanted that you could probably just find at the grocery. And we're just going to add 1 little drop of that as well. It's pretty potent. That's why the jar is so little, almost looks like using saffron. Okay, I'm really getting that mint aroma out of there. Okay, now we're just gonna mix in the chocolate chips and go to the piping. So last step, I have 6 ounces of mini chocolate chips. You really want to use the tiny ones because we're going to pipe them out, and if you don't have a large enough opening on your piping, even the mini ones tend to get stuck and it just kind of makes a bit of a mess. So we're just going to whip that around. It kind of takes the look of mint chocolate chip ice cream right now. Again, that aroma is really nice. Okay, for this next step, you could use a Ziploc bag and just cut off the corner if you wanted, like if you've seen people make lined mini muffin pans with this. I am using an actual pastry bag that, again, I just got at a hobby store. This is an 18-inch one. I found that using smaller ones that I had, I've got the mix coming out the back, and it was just kind of a mess. So this 18-inch bag seemed to be the easiest to use. Okay, I'm gonna clean up a little bit here so we can move in our other equipment. Just a simple baking sheet, and I've already lined it with some aluminum foil. Now I could probably use this without a coupler, but I'm gonna go on and do this. Makes it a little easier to work with. Just put that in your pastry bag, work it down to the end. You can cut it more if you need to. And then a coupler goes on the top of that. You can also use the, I don't know what you call them, little tips, if you wanted to make a certain pattern. Practice that, and I found that I still had the mini chocolate chips kind of getting stuck up in that too. So this ended up working just fine. All right, the hardest part of the whole thing is getting the mix into the pastry bag, which isn't really that big of a deal. Now we're going to be making mini little versions of this, hence the kisses. This is also just your basic meringue recipe, and during the holidays I like to make meringues that are a little larger and then put a scoop of ice cream in them and drizzle over like a chocolate syrup or a bourbon syrup or something and make a nice holiday dessert. And I was just thinking that would be fun with these as well if you wanted to do a larger, but today we're just making these little kiss size versions. Okay, you want to make sure that you tie up the end, cinch up the end of your pastry bag, or you'll have it coming out of your shoulder the other direction. And I just kind of want to do a practice run here. Yeah, it's coming out nicely. And then all we're going to do is kind of like you're doing little potatoes too. We're just going to pipe these out and make a little, and just come up slightly to give them that little like Hershey kiss sort of finish. And we're just going to pipe as many out. It's kind of, I want to say I've gotten about 2 dozen out of this amount, but you're just going to pipe them until you're finished. It's just really kind of satisfying to do. And the final thing we're going to do, I've got the oven heated to 325, just about as low as you go. And we are just going to pop these into the oven, close the door immediately, and turn the oven off. Then we're going to leave them overnight, and they'll be finished. So I have a batch that I made last night that we're going to grab out of the oven as we put these in. Okay, I'm going to take these to the oven. So I think it is so fun to wake up in the morning, open your oven, and these come out just so perfectly, light and fluffy, the mint julep kiss. So I'm going to plate these up into a cute little presentation, and we'll go to Jessica to make a mint julep inspired cocktail.
Since in Louisville we celebrate the mint julep in spring and the lead up to Derby for an entire month, it's a great opportunity to try out some different variations on a classic mint julep. So today I've got my version that's a little bit of a mix between a seal-bought cocktail and your traditional julep. I'm going to be using a little bit of fresh squeezed lemon juice, Kentucky bourbon of course, Prosecco, and crème de menthe and fresh mint for a garnish. So the first thing I'm going to do, I already have ice in my cocktail shaker. I'm going to add to that 1 ounce of bourbon. We're going to do ½ ounce of the crème de menthe. And we're just gonna do a squeeze of lemon juice. I've got a quarter of a lemon cut up here. Right into the shaker. I'm gonna give all of this a good shake. Okay, and then I'm just going to strain that into a champagne flute. A coupe glass would look nice as well for this. Okay, and then I'm going to top this off, fill up the rest of our glass here with a little bit of Prosecco. Always sounds like a party when you pop a bottle of champagne. All right, let that settle down a little bit, and we're gonna go ahead and prepare then our mint for the garnish. And as you all have probably heard me say before, it's critical for your mint julep, for your garnish, to take your fresh mint and give it a good spank before you add it to your glass. And this is just going to kind of release those aromatic essential oils so that when you take a sip out of your cocktail, you really get all those great fresh mint spring smells. So just add a little bit more here. Garnish with our fresh mint. Now, for a little bit more of like a lighter daytime version of this, I really like to do the exact same thing, same amount of ingredients, but instead of using a champagne flute, you're going to put this all into like a larger wine glass, add ice, and top with sparkling water instead of about half of the champagne. Makes it a great patio, brunch, daytime cocktail. But that's all there is to it. This is our mint julep sparkler.
So normally we base a whole episode around a regional recipe that we pick, and you pair it with a bourbon cocktail, right? This time we did things a little different because we wanted to be so cocktail forward in a celebration of Mint Julep Month. So this recipe was almost just like a sideshow.
Yeah, well, I mean, a mint julep inspired treat is good, but a mint julep inspired cocktail is always going to be a little bit better, so it makes sense for this time of year. But I will say I think these are so cute. They're really delicious. And beyond a mint julep month or derby kind of gathering, I think they'd be so cute on any kind of spring festive event.
I was thinking like bridal shower too, paired with the champagne.
Perfect.
Or this now, because it's so popular. Well, wanted to share a little bit of where I got inspiration for it. It was a riff on a recipe out of this, it's one of my favorite cookbooks, the Kentucky Derby Museum cookbook. It came out years and years ago. This is like the 3rd or 4th edition. It's still in print. And all I did was lighten up the sugar content, like I said, because I knew you were going to do a little sweetness to this. I thought it'd be a good pairing. And I swapped out the crème de menthe for the peppermint extract. So I thought it was a nice little recipe.
Yeah. Well, and you know, since we're just kind of at the top of mint julep month, it's the beginning of spring, the weather's starting to get nice, and I think there's going to be a lot more celebrations. I'm planning on having this on a patio soon, but I'm also really looking forward to trying a few of the different variations that our local bartenders come up with throughout the month.
Absolutely. It's such a fun month.
Yeah,
so I'll say cheers to that.
Yep. Cheers to Mint Julep Month, and we will see you all next time on Bourbon
and Biscuits. Cheers.